All right, welcome back, guys. All right, let's continue with the journey. So we started our journey on Agile. We started talking about a couple of things. What makes Agile, and as we've transitioned from waterfall to Agile, um, I think I like the journey so far, and we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep moving. So last week we went deep dive, right, to Agile. We talk about the ceremonies in there. We talk about epics. We talk about user stories. Today I want to start off with these two key blocks also in Agile, right? When do we say we are ready to work on something, and when do we say that we are done, right? Yeah, it is very interesting, right? So when do we say done? And then when do we say that we are, ready as well? This is very important. So in Agile, we have something we call definition of ready, and then we also have definition of done. It's very simple key terms here. We're trying to, understand these two key terms, and then we'll move on from there. So definition of ready versus definition of done. Let's keep going here. So definition of ready and definition of done. So the concept of definition of ready and definition of done are terms that are used to reinforce, transparency, to provide visibility and whatnot to the teams, right? Very important. Stakeholders are watching us. We have other important individuals who are also watching us. And so, when we say we are ready to do something, something must show that we are ready. When we say we are done, there's got to be evidence. There's got to be proof that, yes, you say you've done, but what shows you've done, right? We got to be able to cross the dots and the T's and make sure that, we are fully aligned to what we're working on. So, it reinforces transparency, assure built-in quality as well, and then set the right expectation for the work items to be planned, developed, and then completed during an agile product development, right? So when you look at the DOR and then DOD, definition of ready and the definition of done, this is what exactly we're talking about here. Is somebody in the waiting room? I think everybody's here. Okay. All right. So let's move on. So what is definition of ready? This is real quick, right? So definition of ready. So definition of ready means that stories must be immediately actionable. Stories must be immediately be actionable. The team must be able to determine what needs to be done and the amount of work required to complete the user story or the PBI. PBI, last week I told you guys, is a product backlog item, right? So when we say something is ready, that means if we're going to work on a feature of, say, remittance or maybe money transfer, whatever, and we say this feature, and then we say that this feature is ready, that means it's actionable. What does that mean? That means we can immediately jump on it and then start working on it, right? That means it's actionable. That is what definition of done. That means this feature is ready to go. This is not the time for us to clarify issues with this feature. This is not a time for us to write the story. This is not a time for us to add acceptance criteria. When we say something is done, that means we've prepped the story so well. We have groomed it as well. We've added, the expectation and, what we want out of the feature is clear, is explicit enough to everybody on the team. We have also estimated on this story, right? So getting it done, that means, we can even, bring it to a level where the team members can point out these stories and say story A or story B, or maybe story C. And, they can estimate on it and say, it's going to be 5 points because I understand exactly what the expectations are, for this feature or for this user story, right? So it's very important. So when we say something is ready, that means it's actionable. We can take it in right now and we can start working on it, right? Why? Because we understand everything that needs to be done, the amount of work required, et cetera, with this feature. So that's what we say definition of done. So anytime you hear, when you're in a team and you hear that, hey, we need to bring something to, it must meet definition of ready, definition of ready, this is exactly what we mean, that the story must be what? Actionable. If it's not actionable, that means we have not groomed it enough, we have not prepped enough, we have not estimated on it, then it's not ready. It does not meet the definition of ready criteria, right? Very important, guys. So definition of ready, it means that the stories must be immediately actionable, right? The team must be able to determine what needs to be done, so they know exactly what needs to be done in there and the amount of work that is required to complete the user story or the PBI, the product backlog item, right? Very, very important. And then let's look at definition of ready as well. Definition of ready. So by definition of ready, definition of ready is, this is definition of done, sorry. Definition of done is universal. It relates to everything your engineering team is shipping in the current, iteration or the sprint, right? So if you look at all the stories and user stories that the team is working on, when we say definition of done, that means all the items in the sprint backlog is done, right? Yeah, it's completed. So by definition of done, it means the stories are what? Releasable. What does that mean? So that means if we want to deploy this right now, this minute, this very moment, we can go ahead and deploy it. Why? Because it's ready. It has been developed. It has gone through unit testing. It has been tested, functional testing, and all those type of testings have been done. It has gone through UAT or staging environment, and now we can promote the code to the production environment or our live environment, right? So that's very, very important. So by definition of done, that means what? The stories are what? Releasable. The stories are what? Releasable. That means they are shippable. We can take it out when customers can start using it. Why? Because stories has been completed and they meet our definition of done, right? Our success criteria for all these stories. So I'll list a couple of things out here to guide you guys. When we say something is done, that means unit testing should have been passed, right? It's completed. Code review is also done. Acceptance criteria for each issue has been met as well. Functional testing has all been passed. Non-functional requirement has all been met as well, right? And then the product owner accept the story or the feature as completed and it's done, right? This is a very important piece of our work, right? By we saying that this is definition of done, that means you got to be able to tick all these boxes, like all these checklists that I've listed out here. So unit test is passed, code review is done, again, acceptance criteria. You guys already know Salim explained the acceptance criteria this morning. Acceptance criteria is done for each issue has been met. Functional testing, right? You look at what the feature said, this is what the expectation, does it meet it? Okay, all right, great. We'll move on to the next one. Non-functional testing requirements has been met, right? There are performance issue, security issues. I know you guys remember all the non-functional stuff because it was one of the last, one of your sessions. But then lastly, the product owner or the stakeholder will accept the user story or the feature as what? Done and completed, right? So that is what? The definition of done. That is the definition of done. Now, last week, and I think Joshua started even calling it out, we started looking at, all the user stories. We started, digging around this. I use a restaurant as an example of, writing a user story, etc., and then adding a proper acceptance criteria into it. We try to do simulate an actual a story, write it out, detail it out very well, and also add acceptance criteria, make sure that we also write in a proper acceptance criteria as well. And then I talk about this as well as a flight booking system, right? So if you look at the flight booking system, a typical flight booking system, and maybe I'll just open up a web browser and then show you guys a typical, like a flight booking system or a platform for buying, maybe like a ticket or something like that. But when you look at the flight booking system, is version 1.0. You guys can see on the very top, we have book flight, manage, profile, and then we have some blocks, some cards here in blue and the cards in blue, you see login, search for flight, choose a flight, get discount, payment details, confirm booking, edit profile, remove profile as well. Now, take what I'm saying here, very important, because as you start writing stories and you come back to me with a question, and I know this is something that you're supposed to have figured it out, I'm going to point this back to you and say, go back to the video that we talk about the flight booking, and it will help you be able to identify what is an epic, what is a story, what is a theme, etc. Right? So from this point, I wanted to take some of these things very serious. So there are, we have things over here that are the color, the color code here is orange, right? And then we have blue, and then we have yellow, right? The orange is typically like a theme, right? So the theme is the overarching goal, objective of what we're trying to achieve, book a flight, and also manage profile for customers, etc. They are like the grand scheme of things. When you look at the grand scheme of things, the big, ticket item. This is going to be what we want to achieve for maybe Q1, Q2, whatever of the year. So theme is really the overarching goal, right? Sort of, keep in mind, this is what we're trying to build. So we're building a flight booking system where they can book flight, and, the users can manage that profile as well, or that component. But the orange here means it's a theme. The cards that you see in blue, these are epics, right? So log in, register, sign up, all these user stories will come under that, right? But epic, I hope you guys remember from last week, epic is what? A large body of work. So when you look at the login feature or the login as an epic, we're going to have a couple of stories that will come under the login as an epic, right? So sign up process over there, that is register on a platform or sign up, login, etc. They're all going to be user stories that will come under the login epic. Search for flight, right? Searching for flight. So search for flight. You guys can see over there. So search for flight. You can the stories, typical story that will come under search for flight. So search for flight is what? It's an epic again, right? It's an epic. It's a large body of work. So searching for a flight, you can search for just one airline, can search for other airlines, search for more airlines, etc. A very important piece in there, right? Choose a flight, right? Or selecting a flight. That is also another epic as well. Get discount. We could have, stories that will address promo code, discount code, etc. That will sort of, take care of all these stories as well. That will be part of this system or this platform, right? Payment details. Payment details is also an epic, right? Because we can have several other stories that can come under payment details. So payment details is what? The large body of work or payment gateway integration. We can have it as an epic, right? And under payment, we can have a story that will take care of maybe, say, PayPal, right? It's a story by itself. We can have a story that will take care of what? Pay with Visa. It's a story by itself. We can have other payment methods or other preferred method of payment. So they will all come under what? Payment, right? As an epic. So epic is what? Like large body of work. And then stories are what? The smallest units, right? Confirm booking, the same thing, is an epic. So all the things you see in blue, the color-coded blue, they are all epics. Edit profile, remove profile, delete account, whatever. If you want to delete account because you're bored, you're upset that we keep sending you emails about promo, etc. There should be a way for you to remove your profile, or maybe delete your profile, or deactivate something. Then a couple of things can come under that as well. It can be an epic as well, right? So from what you guys see on this screen here, you guys see user stories. By now, you guys are getting an idea. Oh, okay. So if payment is an epic, there's a large body of work. There's going to be a couple of method of payments that we can integrate in a platform. Mobile money, right, can be an example of a preferred method of payment by customers, right? They can pay with mobile money. They can pay with PayPal, and all these preferred multiple methods of payment. They are what? User stories under the larger body of work, payment, right? So when you start writing your from tomorrow morning, when you guys start getting into Jira, by that time, I think I should have, provisional your accounts. You guys will begin to start. You guys will start with the epics and then begin to write stories under the Epic, and I'll be showing you guys. I'll be guiding you guys into that. I'm not going to do it, but I'll let somebody start with it, and then you guys be watching. And as you guys watch, you guys will begin to do the same thing on your part as well, on your project as well. So here, guys, epics. What I want you to take out from this screen really is what the epic, and then the user stories, right? The large body of work and the kind of stories, the smaller ones that can come under the large body of work, right? Very, very important. I think I should show you guys maybe a flight booking system or something, and some of this will become maybe real sort of. Let me see if I can pull up a flight booking system here. Okay, so I'm gonna show. Let me see in the chat box that you guys are able to see my screen, right? I want to be sure that you guys are able to see my screen, right? Let me see the chat box because I've flipped screens here. I want to be sure that you guys can see my screen and I'm not talking to myself here. All right, so I can see from Samuel, Joshua. Okay, all right, you guys can see. So this is a typical, flight booking platform, Just Fly, right? I use Just Fly a lot in booking for a flight. So when you come over here, this is a domain, justfly.com. There are other ones too, like maybe kayak.com. There are other flight booking platforms like bookings.com, etc. There's so many of these vendors and partners, etc. like that. But let me just stay with Just Fly for now. So as you guys can see over here, they have flight over here in the header menu. They have hotels as well. They have cars as well, right? So that means when a customer come on here, you can search for flight, you can search for hotel, you can search for cars. These are all big stuff, right? Themes, right? The themes here, overarching themes, flight, hotels, etc. And then when you come into this themes proper, we begin to narrow down and get epics, big stuff from these themes, right? As well, cars, the same thing, right? There could be a whole lot of things that we can get out of it. But let's stay with flights, okay? There are other things like customer support, my searches, bookings, signing. You guys remember I showed you guys the login epic, and the sign up process can be in there, login can be in there, etc. So let me do like I'm traveling, right? So maybe from ATL, that is the ATL is the airport short code for Atlanta. So I'm traveling from Atlanta, so I'm coming to Accra. Accra is ACC, right? That's the airport code for Kotoka, ACC. Let's say I want to depart Friday, maybe the 17th, and then I'm returning maybe 31st of December, right? Just one passenger. So let's go ahead and search. Let's go ahead and do our search, and let's see what we will find. Yeah, all right. So this is flight booking system, flight booking platform. Oh my God, what is happening in Accra that tickets are costing $4,500? What is happening in Accra? People are just coming for Christmas. All right. So as you guys can see on the screen here, the results is in. This is what I said I wanted. I wanted to book a flight from Atlanta to Accra, ACC, and you guys can see, as I was talking about, the login, I talk about search for flight, right? You guys remember under search for flight, we have search for one airline, you can search for other airlines, search more airlines, etc. So as we do this, there could be stories that can address this. We can write a code. If I want to just search for maybe Air France, I'm just looking for Air France, right? I can search for, looking for a specific airline, right? I can look for a specific airline, and this, the story under that will take care of that. I can search for other airlines as well. There are so many other airlines here. Delta is here, Air France is here, Turkish Airline is here, Air Portugal is here, United Airline is here. There are other ones, Ethiopian Airline is here, Qatar Airways is here, Brussels Airline, if I want to go through maybe Belgium, can use that. Emirates is here. I have to go all the way to Dubai. It's here. KLM, if I want to go through Schiphol, Amsterdam, I can use KLM as well. So there are, British Airways is here as well. If I want to go to London Heathrow, it's also here as well. I can go through, I can go with British Airways. So, under the large body of work, searching for flights, I can search for specific, airline. This is what my preferred go-to airline if I want to travel, right? And we can have a story. The story will be the search for airline. Let me see if I can flip the screen so that, it's going to be helpful. So you guys can see over here, search for flight, search for one airline, search other airlines, search for more airlines, etc. These are all features, right? You guys remember your church, platform. Under the church platform, there's a way to pay tithing, right? Yeah, let me see the chat box. I know you guys have not forgotten, because from tomorrow morning, you guys will start writing stories for this. So under the church platform, you guys remember there's a place called, pay, or maybe donate or something like that. So under that, how can members pay? Members can pay for their tithing offering, whatever, through Visa, can pay with PayPal, can pay with mobile money, etc. They are all great preferred method of payments, right? In there. Same thing over here, right? We have payment details for booking this booking system, and yes, you guys can see there could be a story to address PayPal. PayPal is huge. PayPal integration is a whole story by itself, right? We got to look into the documentation for PayPal APIs. We got to look into how we will put it on our platform. If we want our members to be able to pay with mobile money for flight booking, we got to integrate with one of these, aggregators that are in town. If their fees are okay with us, why not? We'll go ahead and plug it in so that, if I want to book my flight, I can pay with mobile money. If I want to pay with my Airtel Tigo and Vodafone Cash and whatnot, I can do that. Visa is also here, and we will write a story for Visa to take care of Visa payment as well, and make sure that we can integrate Visa on our platform, right? So an example of, and how we would develop this, right? So you guys are looking at an example of this. So flight booking, the same thing, right? Flight booking, you see all these airlines that are here. We can have a story to take care of some of these features as well. You guys remember, choose a flight. So if I wanted to select this flight, if I like it, why not? I'll go with it, right? This flight is $2,000 and $323, $323, right? $2,323. So if I want it, I'll go with it. Where my trip starts from here in Atlanta at 8:50 p.m. Friday, and I'm gonna get to New York 11:06 p.m. right? I'll be in New York, and then within 49 minutes, that's the layover time, right? The layover time 49. If I like this, why not? By 11:55, we are already airborne, right? We are on our way to Accra, so the same night. It is not going to be the next day or something. When I leave 8:05, it's almost about 2 hours flight from here, from Atlanta to New York, right? It's 2 hours flight from Atlanta here to New York alone. If you're traveling from New York to like Los Angeles, it's almost like you're coming to Accra. It's long. If you're traveling from let's say JFK New York to LOS Los Angeles, LAX, and let's say I'm traveling the same time, you guys will be surprised the distance between one city in America to other city, right? Alone, right? It could be long. What I want is maybe a direct flight. I don't want transit. I don't want layover. So there's gonna be other features over here that could address that. These are all user stories. So I just want non-stop, right? I want not non-stop. I don't want one stop, two stops, etc. Right? So from New York, the JFK to LAX, Los Angeles alone is like 6 hours, right? And I'm still within America. I'm not going outside of America. I'm still within America, right? It's 6 hours, 15 minutes from New York, JFK. I'm going all the way to LAX, Los Angeles, right? It's almost like you're traveling from Accra to London, right? Almost the same hours from Accra to London. Okay, that tells you how America, like, we just within continental US, and I'm spending almost about 6 hours on a flight. So if you're from ACC, if I'm traveling from ACC to LHR, that is Heathrow, London Heathrow, LHR, it's almost about the same duration of time. I'm going through all these things just to show you guys. There are features over here, and all these features we're going to write in user stories. They are, if you're searching for a flight, you want to filter, you want to look for a non-stop, etc. All these things are what the stakeholders have said that they want. Hey, I want the ability to select a non-stop flight, right? So filter your results, by searching for the flight. It's going to come under choosing a flight, right? I should have the ability to do that. If I do not want to have like a like a layover, stop somewhere else before I will continue, why not? So from ACC to LHR, which is London Heathrow, it's 6 hours and 35 minutes, right? It's almost the same, almost about the same time that you'll typically travel from New York to what you call LAX, right? Los Angeles. The same thing if I was going to Arizona, if I was going to Denver, if I was going somewhere else. But, same things. But let's say from ATL, from here where I live in Atlanta to ACC, so where we're going, right? We're going for Christmas. Every Ghanaian, wants to travel to Ghana, right? Ghanaians, even if our country is bad, we hate our country so much. We talk about our politicians, but yes, still we love Ghana, right? Ghana. If you're watching this video on YouTube, I'm not trying to be biased, right? I don't. You may you you may come from somewhere else, but hey, as Ghanaians, we love where we come from, right? We could say all the bad things about our people and politicians and etc. But still, Ghana is Ghana, right? So over here, selecting a flight, if I wanted to go with this one over here, if the price looks good and the time, the duration of the flight, everything looks good. See over here, there's something over here that I need to pay attention to. So when I'm returning on Friday 31st, 10:45, I leave Accra. I'm going to be arriving in New York 5:15 a.m., almost 11 hours flight, right? 11 hours and 30 minutes. There is something over here that I need to pay attention to. It's a 3 hours layover in New York. And not only that, I need to change airport. I have to go to LaGuardia, right? I have to go to LGA before, for my flight, my onward flight to Atlanta, right? Do I want this, right? If I need to leave the airport and I go to LaGuardia to be able to, get on my next flight from New York. LaGuardia is also an airport also in New York as well. It's also a different airport over there. If I need to do that, would I want to do that, or I need to search for a different flight that meets my, demands, right? I can search for another flight that comes in from Accra to New York, and then 3 hours I'll stay in. And from New York JFK, same airport, I'll come back to Atlanta. So by 12 a.m., I'll be back home, right? So if I want to go with this one, I go ahead, select this one. So when I select it, I like everything I've seen on my itinerary, the duration of the flight, the layovers, etc. So I'll go ahead, and then, type in my name, my first name, last name, etc., my birth date, etc. TSA, the Transportation Security Agency in America, they're going to need all these details, make sure that, everything is okay. So I go all the way down, and then make payment, right? My Visa card, how am I going to pay for this ticket, right? I got to pay for it. I select my the card type, expiration date, the year, the CVV, the security card behind, the billing address for my card, etc. So I go ahead and put all these details in. There should be a way for me to even select my seat. I think there might be a way, maybe request seats on the next flight. So yeah, if I wanted to, there could be another feature over here. So I'm just pointing all this out to you guys. We have to build all these features. We need to be able to build this, right? All this flow, the payment flow, the flight itinerary selection flow, all these things has to be built by somebody. And that's what we are building. We're building this, flight booking platform, right? So members to be able to select one particular airline. If I needed, maybe multiple stops, right? If I'm traveling with a couple of, people, traveling with family, traveling with kids, traveling with infants, I can select all these things in here. And we need to build it. So we got to write a user story for all these features out here, right? What I'm sharing with you is for you to be able to understand what goes into a proper platform, a system for booking flights, right? All the things that you see over here, they are user stories. A story took care of this one, right? A story took care of 2 stops. A story took care of this. If I wanted to, filter by the time that I want to leave, maybe I want to leave, maybe from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. or 6 a.m. in between whatever time, maybe 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. That's the time that I'm looking for. I'm looking for a flight that will take off at that time. You see that when I filter, when I did this filtering here, now my departure time, is giving me something that will leave 7:25 a.m., right? So, if I want to filter and say I want something that will leave maybe from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m., again, it will filter again and give me a result, an output that depicts what I said I want to see, right? 8:50 p.m. That is what the time that I'm going to be leaving Atlanta, right? Over here. But if I wanted to open it up and say, hey, flight departing time is open, you guys can see what's going on. And then flight to Atlanta as well, the departing time as well, I can filter as well. So whilst you're filtering, you guys see that the results is changing, over here. And all these things are what user story. A story was written for this. So for instance, the departing time, right? As a user or as a customer, as a traveler, or as a passenger, I want the ability to filter. I want the ability to select, my, departing time, right? So that, I can select my preferred, time to leave, right? This is a typical user story, right? So a user story actually took care of this feature or this, filtering capabilities here, right? Connecting time. So connecting time, like, layover time, I can say that I don't want the layover that is more than 5 hours. I don't want a layover that is more than that. I don't want to stay in an airport, waiting till, 10 hours layover, I have to wait, till I find my next flight. No. So I can limit the number of hours that I spend out here, right? I spend at any layover or any transit, right? This is what another user story. So a user story will take care of this. And you guys are getting the drift now. By now, you guys are going to understand, oh, okay. Airlines, right? I got to be able to select whatever airline that I want to travel with. If I don't want to travel with every airline, why not? I should be able to select, my specific airline, specific airline that I want to travel with, right? You guys see from here, choose a flight, select a simple click. You click on something, search one airline, search all other airlines. And I can do that. You guys can see from the left navigation bar over here, there are multiple airlines here. I can select all these airlines. I can be checking all the boxes for all these airlines. And I can simply also say that I just want to see, Delta as well, right? So you guys can see over here, there are, check boxes over here, Delta, Air France, KLM, JetBlue, Turkish Airlines, United Airlines, Ethiopian, Qatar, Brussels, Emirates, American Airlines, British Airways, Sky. So all these are what? Different airlines. Why not? So we can have a feature, we can have a story that will address all these things. Multiple airlines, select just one airline, etc. And I get to see the results, right? So there are so many things out here. Even for the trip that I want to back, like I'm traveling to Accra, right? I could say, for this trip, I want something that I want the results that will actually show for my, the inbound and then also the outbound, right? When I'm returning. Or I can say, hey, I'm going to Ghana, but I don't know when I'm returning. So I just want a one-way trip, right? So by one-way trip, by clicking here and say one way, and when I select it, it will just, you see, this time around, it didn't give me the date that I want to return. It didn't give me a field, a calendar engine where I can select, my return date as well. So, I can simply, say that I just want one way, right? I don't know when I'm returning back from Accra. I'm going to be in Ghana for maybe 4 months, 6 months, a whole year. So I just need something that will take me to Accra, and I might come back. It's just going to be one way. So I can simply select here, and a maximum of 9 passengers. Okay, it's telling me over here. There's an error here. So there's a business rule. I want you guys to take a look at this. Errors found. A maximum of 9 passengers is allowed per booking. So if I've selected more than, I'll just click in here and over here, right? So my one-way trip is going to filter again and then show me something here, right? So this one is just one way. Like I said, I'm going to Accra, I'm going to Ghana. I do not know when I'm returning, right? It could be a long stay in Accra. So this one, I leave Friday the 17th, the same day. I arrive in Washington Dallas Airport. So that is IAD. So Washington Dallas Airport. And then I leave Washington Dallas Airport 6:05 p.m. and I'm arriving 8:55 a.m. in Accra Saturday morning, right? And that's it. You guys can see that there is no return itinerary. It's just my departing itinerary. That's all, right? So one-way trip, multiple trips, right? It could be multiple. I'm going to Accra. I'll come back maybe at a different date. I will leave ACC, Accra. And then when I'm coming back, I want to go to Frankfurt, maybe Germany. I want to visit a brother over there, right? So maybe at a different date, maybe January 12th, right? And then I want to add another trip again from Frankfurt. I want to leave, maybe Frankfurt, right? You're just traveling. So maybe from Frankfurt as well, Germany. I want to go to Rome. I have a sister in there, Rome. I want to go and visit my sister in Rome, right? And then also a different date, maybe February 23rd. And I want to add another one again. So maybe from Rome as well, from FCO. I want to go to LHR. I want to visit a friend in London as well. So LHR, right? Somebody's in the lobby. So multiple, right? So somewhere April, right? And then I'll say that it's just me. I'm just traveling by myself, and then hit here, search. I've multiple cities as well. This is what a user story will take care of this, right? Booking under the Epic search for flight. We can have a story under search for flight. That's the Epic. A story will be multiple city or multi-city booking, right? And so when I click on that, I should be able to have the ability to do that. We are sorry, but no fares were found. So it's maybe the cities that I'm searching, this just fly people, the vendor or partner, this is a third-party company. They may not be able to give me an idea how much it's going to cost me, etc. Different place, I can go to maybe Booking or Kayak or any other place, and they'll be able to give me an idea how much it's going to cost me as well, right? So you guys are getting it right now. You guys are beginning to align with Epics, user stories. Epics, user stories, right? Epics and user stories, very, very important. Epics and the user stories. So log in, search for flight, choose a flight, get discount, payment details, confirming booking. So for instance, if I came back to Atlanta to Accra, and then I'm returning maybe here. Let me show the screen. So if I came back here, and then I'm traveling for Christmas, I leave 17th, and then I return maybe January 12th or something like that. This is my results, right? It's still finding the cheapest fares for me to travel with, right? All right, so it has given me the results now. And Go ahead, confirm it, make payment, and that's it. I'm done. I'm going to be receiving email confirmations about the trip and etc. So all this is what user stories. You guys remember, right? You know, you get notification. These are all part of a story. A story must take care of notification, getting confirmation, right? If I've confirmed the payment, you know, selected my seat, you know, and you know, all the details that they required, you know, if everything is done and completed, what's going to happen? I'm going to receive a confirmation by email or whatever that it might be in this system. It's going to be out there, right? Very, very important. Now, let's talk about our last, something that I want to talk about here, you know, just to reinforce, you know, all these features, all these user stories, all the things that we are talking about here. Let me talk about this, and then we're going to be ending today's, you know, session, right? We're going to be ending today's session. So I hope you guys are getting it now, beginning to understand. Okay. So that's for flight booking. But before we get into all these epics, features, etc., there's a process that I want to talk about, right? You know, before we talk into all these the things that you see out here, there is a scoping process, right? But even before we get to that scoping process, so let's look at this is going to be the final touch here for user stories, right? Final touch for user story. This is an example. Is an example, right? An example of a structure of a user story. So all the things that we've talked about, the role, the goal, the benefit, description, acceptance criteria, this is everything put together, right? Everything put together to make up the user story. So take a look here, right? So a typical maybe e-commerce platform, right? Typical e-commerce platform. This story is really for an admin, an SG application admin, somebody who will typically go on the platform, maybe add maybe new items, etc. Maybe put some filters out there so customers can access it, right? So a user story comprised of what you see in the orange oval or circle shape here, role. You see in the blue here, the goal, the yellow here, the benefit, the gray circle here, the description, and then acceptance criteria. So everything put together here, this is what we're getting for a user story. So as a SG application admin, right? As an SG application admin, I want to be able to create a new product with a mandatory columns and a basic information section, all right? Let's take a look again. I want to be able to create a new product with the mandatory columns and a basic information section so that the new product becomes available for end user transaction, right? For the end user transaction. And you guys see over here, we have a description, and then we have what the acceptance criteria over here. And then there's even a reference, maybe picture, like a UI, UX design that's attached to maybe their story as well. So you guys can see in the orange color, that is what the role is identified here, the persona, the end user is identified. Who's going to be using this? Who are we arming, right? The SG application admin. The SG application admin. Very important. You guys pay attention here. Very important. The story, in the story body, we have the goal in there, the blue color, right? Something in blue. I want to be able to create a new product with the mandatory columns and the basic information sessions, right? You guys see the blue, that's the goal of the story in here. And then the benefit or the expected outcome, the yellow, right? So that the new product become available for end user transaction. You guys see it over there, right? And then the description or additional information, right? So you guys see a typical description of additional information. So that's here, the description column. So the description you guys can see over there. Add new product page must allow the following fields, right? So over here, you see number one, product name. There's a mandatory field. It's a what? A text field. Oh, let me go back real quick. So the product name here is what? The product name is what? A text field, right? A text field. Number two, the product category. The product category is also a mandatory field, right? It's going to be what? A drop down from the category. So the product category, we're going to have a drop down where the user can click and then he will select, he or she will select from the categories that we have in there. Very important, right? No default. So there's not going to be no default. So this is how you write a story, right? No default. Number three, there's a product description. This is going to be a text box field where you type in all the description about the product, etc. A typical e-commerce platform, you see some of these things. There's a ASIN, so the ASIN number, right? This is what? An alphanumeric text, right, field. There's a retail cost, number 5, retail cost here, the number with decimal, right? So we're going to allow maybe the numbers with, but not just a whole number, but maybe decimals will be allowed here. For instance, the price of the book or the price of an item, a product for sale, could be maybe $5.55 maybe dollars, right? $5.55, right? Maybe 10 Ghana cedis and 20 pesos, etc. So decimal is allowed in this field, right? So it's a number field with a decimal. Number 6, brand, searchable. So there's going to be like a fuzzy search bar where you just can simply type in the fuzzy search bar and say, I'm looking for maybe Gucci, I'm looking for Armani, I'm looking for any type of brand that you're looking for. You can type in and it's going to be searchable. So we want to be able to build this so we have tags in the back end so that when somebody type in a brand name, the predictive results of what will come out will match whatever the customer is looking for, right? The model, there could be a model name or whatever, for the product, and it's also a text field as well, right? So that's what comes under the description. And then let's look at the acceptance criteria. So number 1, all user validation should work and display correct validation messages as defined globally, right? All user validation should work and display correct the validation messages as defined globally. Number 2, after creating a product, it should be searchable from the search page. So for us to be able to say that this is done, when we add a product over there, when the customer search for it, then we should be able to test this and make sure that it's searchable. It can be located, it can be found, right? So number 3, it should display successful message after successfully creating the product, right? So for this admin to be sure that this is done as an acceptance criteria, when I add something, I should be able to see a successful message display and say, yes, this product is added or this category is added, right? So users with product creation right, those that have that privilege or that right, will only be allowed to create and access the new product security settings. This is going to be security settings as well, right? So only the privileged people or people who have the right can do this as well. Not everybody can log in as an admin and begin to add some of these, things that are out here. Very, very important, guys. Hey, you guys will have to watch this video again and make sure that you understand this so that tomorrow morning and from Monday going, etc., start writing stories, you begin to come back again and say, okay, I need to have this, I need to have that in there, All right. Now, for all these things to happen, for me to know the story, etc., the expectation, etc., there is the feature or the product scoping process, right? And I've kind of talked about it in some other way, in some other aspect, etc. But if you're a product owner, you need to be able to understand this process. And I know we have some 25 minutes. Hopefully, I'll be able to knock this process out in 25 minutes. A couple of slides, but I'll talk through this and then we'll be ending today's session, right? So feature scoping process, this is how, in your mindset, what you think about this feature. If there's a booking thing in there, if there's a payment, gateway integration for the product or the platform, etc. We got to be able to do scoping process, for this feature, right? So here, development team members may be involved in early part of the project. Usually it's between stakeholders, product owner, business analysts, product managers, etc. But development team can also be introduced to this so that they can know exactly what is coming up. And it's not anything bad. It's okay, right? I hope you guys are looking at this screen because I'm sharing multiple screens here. And I hope you guys are looking at the feature. Let me see the chat box, whether you guys are with me on the feature scoping process slide, right? I want to be sure I'm not showing something else. Okay, let me see the chat box. You guys are looking at the feature scoping process here. Yes. Okay. All right. Great. All right. So the development team members will be involved in this. That could either be a time box to learn about the idea, the product, the feature, the story, what we're trying to build, and how to proceed, and to analyze the full high level scope. So that the product owner, executive team can understand the relative size of this project. So it starts from that point, right? We plan ahead. We say, oh, okay, we want to build this feature. We want to do this. And we begin to have some ideas into, okay, this is how long it's going to take us. It's going to take us maybe 8 sprints, maybe 12 sprints to be able to finish with this, right? There's a lot of things to do in there, right? It's going to take us some time. So when scoping project, typically the business analyst or product owner, whoever, will lead the effort with assistance from the architect on the team, sort of, refinement, grooming, etc., kind of work in there. But anyone on the development team can assist with the project scoping as well. So, right? So there are a couple of things that we want to be able to understand. So number one is analyze the current state, right? Analyze the current state. Be able to understand the current state. So what is the current state, right? So being able to understand the business need and how it relates to the way enterprise functions today, and set a baseline and a context for change, right? So today, if you wanted to change something, a process, you want to build something, and we want to write all the epics, write user stories, etc. It's very key. It's very important that we understand the current state system. So today, do we even have a system that exists? Is this going to be a new platform, a new product from concept level? It has never existed since Adam. We got to be able to understand this, right? To be able to set for the baseline for what we're trying to build, right? So the purpose of analyzing the current state is to be able to understand the reason why an enterprise needs to change some aspect of it, and how it operates, and what will be directly and indirectly be affected by the change, right? So whilst we talk about this new change and understanding, doing some analysis of the current state, we're looking at a couple of things in there. So okay, maybe this is what we need to. This is why we need to re-architect this process. This is why there's deficiency here, there's troubling here. Customers are not able to, book a flight if, they cannot select, the layover times that are in there, etc. So we got to be able to maybe have a new enhancement on our already existing, maybe justfly.com platform, right? We are adding, maybe previously, we didn't have the ability for the customer to select the layover times that they want, right? So we want to add that feature so that, the customer, they have other capabilities. They can select, how long they want to be at a different airport and how long they want to stay while they're waiting for their next flight, etc. Right? Very important. So analyze the current state. Analyze the current state, right? Number 2, define the future state. So once we are analyzing the current state, then what do we want to have in the future? What is the future state or the desired state, right? This is the state that we desire to be, but we are not there yet, right? So define the goals and objective that will be demonstrated. That will demonstrate the business need. The business need has been satisfied and what needs to be changed, right? So goals are longer term, ongoing, and qualitative statements of a state or condition that the organization is seeking to establish and maintain. So we got to be able to understand what exactly we want. What do we desire? So the desired state or the future state, right? Once we're talking about the current state, we need to talk about, the desired state as well, the future state as well, or the to-be system. You guys remember I talk about the as-is system and the to-be. The as-is is the current state, and the to-be system is what? The future state as well, right? We also need to look at risks, right? Assess risks. So you guys were writing business requirement documentation. You guys were talking about, risks, etc., assumptions, etc. We need to assess risks, right? So the purpose of risk assessment is to understand the undesirable consequences of transitioning to the future state, so that they may consider the effect and recommend actions to address the risks or mitigate the risks as possible, right? It's very important. We got to be able to know that if we go route A or route B or route C, if we go this path and whatnot, what's going to happen, right? What is going to be the consequences? If we transition to do this, if we get into that, etc. What are the risks? So we just want to be able to predict whether negative impact, etc. On our platform. So assessment of risk, very, very important, right? There is also a change strategy in there as well. There is also a change strategy in there. So change strategy in there. So perform a gap analysis between the current and then the future state, right? And then recommend approach to successfully transition, right? The architecture should be determine which may involve a solution assessment if the requirement cannot be met in the current architecture or whatever. So, whilst we're talking about a different approach to how we want to build something, it's definitely, we definitely have to look at our infrastructure. We definitely have to look at our current state of architecture, etc. And sometimes we may have to put a little twist to something. We may have to maybe redesign our architecture, our framework. There's something that needs to be looked at. So we got to be able to look at the change strategy as well, right? What is going to be needed for us to have this successful change in the environment, right? Now, when you look at the project scope activity or scoping process, right, there are deliverables. There are deliverables in there, and you guys got to know this, right? Because you guys will be leading this, so you guys got to know. There are business goals that are in there. We have epic features that are in there. We have solution approach in there. We have road mapping in there. We have risks. We have assumptions, dependencies, recommendation, references, etc. The list is endless, right? But just these few are very helpful. So business goal. Let's go ahead and take a deep dive into some of these things that I've just mentioned. So business goals. I'm kind of rushing. I have about some 10 minutes, less than 10 minutes, so that I can take some few questions before we end today's session. Describe the business goal for the project, right? So what business value will the project deliver, right? So I've said this over and over and over. Much as we love the product we want to build, the features might look cool and whatnot, but there must be a business value for this. And you guys may have heard me say it must make economic sense, right? There must be value for us as a business. There must be value for the customer as well. Why would a customer part money, or dole out cash and say, I want this feature without understanding what value I'm getting in exchange, right? And also for us as a business, we are not a charitable organization. We are a profit-making organization. And so what is the ROI for us? So business value of the project, right? We do this by putting in place how we measure success of the project once it's done. How does the goal fit into the overall strategy of the business or the organization, etc.? Well-defined business goals will be clear and also be measurable as well, right? Very, very important. Scope. Provide a model that visually depicts the overall scope of the project. Models such as functional decompositions and context diagram do a good job of showing the overall scope. So very, very important, right? Very, very important. Scope. We got to be able to define the scope. We don't want, people bringing in something that is not out of scope, right? They'll be trying sneaking something that has not been planned or something that has not been prioritized yet, right? So we got to be able to have a scope defined in here, provide a model that visually depicts the overall scope of the project, the models such as functional, decomposition, etc., and sometimes non-functional as well, right? That's the scope of what we're looking at for this feature, for this product or this platform. Epics, features, etc. So we got to be able to have epics defined in there. You are the product owner. You got to be able to show them that this is what we're building. We're building this, flight booking. We have all these epics in there. Provide a brief description of epics and features identified during the scoping effort. So as you liaising with stakeholders, as you interact and maybe interface with both internal and client users and maybe external and client users, vendors, partners, etc. You begin to get an idea. Oh, okay, they want this, they want that. Search for flight, payment details. They want customer to be able to pay online. They want confirmation. They want, sign up process. So you begin to identify epics that are in there, just like you guys were looking at the flight booking thing, right? So provide a brief description, and then you begin to say not just payment details, but you'll be able to put a brief description about payment details, right? we want to be able to have this platform where, under payment, we want to have all these options in there, etc. So a brief description of what you mean by that epic, right? So very, very important. Very, very important. So then the epic features and provide a reference back to the Azure DevOps, right? Or whatever board, if available, for more details. Solution approach, right? So the solution approach, very important. Provide a very well brief description of what solution will be used to implement the feature. Example, RMS will be the solution. If we do not know the solution approach and will require a project identification solution in the marketplace, we can state that the solution unknown at this time, and we can recommend spending time to undergo a vendor selection process or analysis to determine this approach. Use the solutions. Once the solution is known, we can complete the selection with these details, right? We got to be able to know. If stakeholders tells you this is what we want to build, there's so many things that you guys can look at. I think the last time we talked about this, do we want to build this in-house? Do we want to go with a vendor selection process and maybe somebody has already done this? They've gained stability. They've been doing this over and over. So it is easy for us to, tap into that and, sort of, build from there and, maybe customize their product. It could be a cut product or something, off-the-shelf type of product, right? So solution approach, how are we going to tackle this? How are we going to get this done, right? You guys got to look at that. Very important. Road mapping, right? Roadmap. So road mapping show an estimated duration of how long it would take to complete the project, right? Given that the scoping efforts are typically time boxed and then the analysis is done at a high level. I have 13 minutes remaining, man. I'm running. It's done at high level. Teams may be uncomfortable giving estimate for the project. In this case, make assumptions and list those assumptions in the assumptions section, right? You guys remember the project, in your BRDs, you guys are talking about assumptions, etc., right? In this case, make assumptions in there, list those assumptions in the assumption sessions. Teams can assume that items are in or out of scope, what solutions will work and what will not work, the team capacity. Sometimes when you're building a feature, you got to look at your current resource that you have, the resources that you have, and then look at the skills of the resources. Sometimes some projects will demand that you guys bring in, hire somebody who is an expert in a certain area to help you guys out, right? So very important. You look at all these things, very important as well. Team capacity, that another project will be completed first, that a feature will only take a certain amount of time box or limited information, or really anything that is vague or not understood at the time. So all these key assumptions, etc. You got to be explicit about it, state it out in there. The roadmap should not include dates as to when the project will begin and end, but should include an estimated duration, like example, right? 3 sprints, 5 sprints. If you look at it, look at all the things that you've done, you should be able to get an idea and say, oh, well, for this feature, we look at maybe 8 sprints or something to finish up with it. And by now, you guys already know what a sprint means, right? You guys know by now. A defined roadmap will show the key milestones and how long each milestones will take to deliver, right? So as a roadmap, you'll be able to, let your stakeholders know that, yeah, this feature will be done by this time. This feature will be done by our 2nd sprint. This feature will be completed, ship out, deploy by our 7th sprint, et cetera, et cetera. So that is very, very important as well, right? Very, very important. Risks. We talk about risks as well. So risks here, provide a list of risks identified for the initiation that could impact, cost, schedule, the ability to deliver something of value, technology risks, legal risks, operational risks that can come from poor implementation, right? From poor, implementation. The team may want to include risk mitigation, strategies. Mitigation strategies in the recommendation section. So very, very important. Assumptions. So So you describe all the assumptions made when coming up with a scope, timeline, deliverables, what is in scope, items out of scope, solution, etc. So we talk about a couple of things in here. We've already mentioned some of them. Dependencies, talk about some of these things as well. Let's have independence for the project. Talk about some of this as well. Factors for the project to proceed, additional the team. You want to call out signal effort required for the business, etc. as well. So dependencies, recommendations, provide recommendation of how to move forward. The team may recommend spending additional time on analysis on a specific feature, etc. And the scope, they may recommend its initiation vendor selection process to identify a solution that will meet the business need. They may recommend prioritizing and a project first so that dependencies is removed, etc. So that is it, guys. And the last one might be references, as you think about a project, something to you guys to be reinforced and, be able to understand this. Provide useful links for the work item or the story, etc., so that team members can know exactly what you're talking about. So it is very, very important, guys. This brings to we're drawing down on agile stories, etc. And then from tomorrow, I kind of was running. I was really running because I wanted to finish this before our time ends today at 9 a.m. But hey, questions, etc. Let's talk about it, and then that's it. That's going to be the end of today's session. So I'm going to open the floor. I'm going to yield the floor to you guys to bring in your questions, etc. And then that's it, guys. From tomorrow morning, I'm going to take some time this afternoon and then work on your accounts, and then you guys should be good to go from tomorrow morning. Start writing stories for your EL, the church project, and then what else again? The e-commerce, and then one more missing. The pizza project. Yes. And then the pizza. And then we begin to do that. And then after that, we still have a couple of sessions left. We're going to do QA. I'm going to teach you guys how to do QA, teach you guys how to write test cases and test strategies, etc. And then we'll get into change management. We'll do some other things. So we still have a couple of things to cover, SQL, basic queries, how to carry a database, etc. Show you guys a few things. And then some other things. And then I think we're wrapping up with this batch, right? All right. So we have 8 minutes. We have 8 minutes, guys.
Nana, please, I have a question.
Nana.
Who is speaking now?
Okay, you want to take the floor.
Okay.
All right. Now, about the user stories, I think now our life is centered around user stories. So when you were teaching us the types of user stories, the one you said it was your own designed way of categorizing user stories.
Right.
You spoke about design stories, implementation stories,
mm-hmm.
screen wiring stories, and then integration stories, the API integration stories. And you said the API integration stories are technical type of stories. If I'm right. I think you gave examples for all, but except that one, you didn't really talk about it. So, like from today's session, which ones will fall under kind of that technical type of stories?
No, so they are all stories. Every user story is a user story, right? But sometimes based off on what we are working on, for instance, if we have, for instance, API for PayPal integration, right? Now, we are integrating a third-party APIs, right? It could be PayPal, it could be Visa, MasterCard, etc. And they have a way of doing things, for a transaction to be executed, we need to be able to align with their method. There's what we call a payload, right? The payload is how data get exchanged between the provider for the API and us, the vendor that is consuming their APIs as well. So they may have something, they will say that, okay, for you guys to use the Visa, MasterCard, there's a payload, there's a like a field in the payload that might be, we need to validate your name. We need to validate your address, your billing address. We got to be able to validate the CVV, the 4-digit maybe, Visa, MasterCard number, right? There's a payload. So the customer will have to put in all this data, right? For us to be able to say that, the data will be exchanged successfully. If we are we have a request going out. We got to be able to have a response back, right, successfully, that the transaction has been done. And the only way is for us to be able to have that data payload, done properly or work on properly, right? Or have that get and the request and then the response back, done properly. It is not different. Sometimes API stories, your development team members will sort of help you guys out, be able to put in the details for the APIs, details, for the story as well. But it is not anything different. We just have to be able to understand the payload, what the that API require for us to be able to transmit the data to them for what we want, and then for them to also give a confirmation back. That's all it is, right? That's all that.
Yeah. I think I get it. I get it now. I get it.
Okay.
And then you, because of time, I'll leave that one.
No, you go ahead and finish up with your question.
Okay. Now it is about the sprints.
Okay.
From what you taught us, it looks like sprints, the calculation of the sprints are the working days, right? Mm-hmm. So if you are working with a team, it's like I wanted to find out, is this strictly like working days? Because in some parts of the world, Saturdays are working days for them. So if you are working with a team where maybe Saturdays are working days, how does that work in here? Because from your calculation or what you are teaching us, they are strictly Mondays to Fridays. Even when they overlap, the weekends are not added. So if you are working with people who, like for instance, in Dubai and all these Arab nations, they have Saturdays, also I think Sundays rather, as working days or something. How do you go about that? Is that also what's your take on that?
Thank God that I have an answer for you that Dubai from the 1st of January 2022, they are considering changing their weekend to Saturdays and Sundays. But I'll answer your question in a way. So weekends are not part of working days, right? Typical work days, we have Monday to Friday, right? That's typical work days for everybody. Does not matter where you live on this planet, right? Typical work days, we have Monday to Friday, Monday to Friday. The sprint can start from Tuesday. You just have to count, make sure that it's 14 days, whatever, right? It can start from Wednesday. And the last time I tested you guys by using a different day, as you guys see on the screen. I think I used the 3rd of February. So if I start from here, when will the sprint end, right? You do your 14 days. If by the company's culture, if they are going with the 14 days release, sprint cycle, some companies, I told you guys, they use a monthly sprint idea as well, right? But whatever be the case, if they're going with sprint 14 or a month, just calculate the days and that's it. So it's work days and now weekends. Weekends are not counted. Even if you're working with offshore team, other teams around the world, typically weekends are not counted. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
No, that's
okay. Nana.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I wanted to ask. You made mention of the TDD the last time, and you explained it quite well. But I also wanted
what is it again? Can you repeat
the TDD, the test-driven development.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure about the behavior-driven development because it had characteristics that looked like the user story template that you showed us. It spoke about.
What was I talking about? I've forgotten what was I talking about when I talk about the TV? What specific thing I was?
You were talking about the environment. You were clarifying the environment for us, and then you mentioned the TDD. And then, so I went to research on the TDD, and it gave me another part of the TDD, which is the BDD. So when I was reading through the BDD, and it looked like a user story, the template. They spoke of the goal, the I want, and the whole the user story template. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, so TDD, if you're doing testing, I will not have the time to show you guys all these things. Motivation. So TDD, for instance, maybe when we get into testing, I don't know if I have the time, but I'll show you guys some few things. So we have, the data-driven type of testing, where you write some code. Back in the days, I used to write some some Java stuff. You may have a spreadsheet somewhere, and the test itself, once you initiate it, we have tools for using this, right? So you could be using maybe Selenium, or maybe what other tool are there? Maybe QTP, HP QTP, or something like that. And you could be writing like a data-driven type of test. You have a lot of tests, big data, right? A lot of test data that you need to be able to validate all this data. And so you write a simple code sometimes, to pick up some of this, columns and data from this spreadsheet, etc., and sort of be able to work something out. It could be a calculation, it could be a business logic, it could be something, and that is how we do it. We have behavior driven. Behavior driven is pretty much like a customer getting on the platform and you said, I want this, right? So if you want something done, you sort of navigate around, you check this feature, is it working? You click on this, you do that, that's sort of behavior, typical customer behavior driven. But TDD is like, some is heavy data driven testing, right? Heavy data driven testing. Man, you remember you taking me back way back ago, like 2012.
I'm really I'm clarified now. Okay now.
All right, guys. Who else? We have it's already 9. God, it's already 9. Okay, all right, who else? Let's go.
Nana, please, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
This is on I think last week's video, and you gave a set of features for the acceptance criteria. I want to ask, my question is that, are these features passed on to when you are designing your user story acceptance criteria template, when you are designing the template? Are these features passed on to the template? That's my question. I didn't get that in the video.
Okay, so you're saying that, hold on, let me see if I can find it. Acceptance criteria, okay. Are you talking about this? Acceptance criteria?
Yes.
And then I talk about this in here, the template for acceptance criteria.
Yes.
Okay, so what about the question? You're saying that would you guys implement this in your story writing? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Make sure that this is a guide for you guys, right? Giving, when, then, etc. Make sure that you have this guide to sort of shape. It's going to help you write a good acceptance criteria, right? You don't want to just say that you do acceptance criteria. Some people list it out. You can list all the things that must be checklists, like check that might be checkbox before, or you tick all the boxes and say, this must be seen, this must be done, first name, last name, etc. It's good. This guide is also very helpful, that given that you log in, when, then, etc., very helpful as well.
If you can go back a few slides. So the features I was talking about is the slide before. It's yes, the dark slide.
Oh, this one.
Yes. So the features I was talking about are the ones listed below. Clear and simple. All these features, are they to be passed on to that template?
Oh no. This is supposed to guide you. This is just supposed to, for you to be grounded. When you're thinking about some of the criteria, it has to be simple, clear, explicit, and whatnot, right? So This is just something informational. Let me put it that way. This is just informational.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Guys, any more questions? We have already exceeded our time by 5 minutes, but it's good. I want to make sure that, there's clarity here.
Hello, Nana.
Yes, sir.
This is Joshua. Actually, my own is not a question. Thank you for today. I just wanted to say that we received or at least I received the allowance, the data allowance. So, thank you. I think I'm speaking for most of us, but thank you. I don't think we've had opportunity to acknowledge that. So, thank you.
Yeah, that's okay. I know by now everybody should have received it. Almost 12 people or so. You guys all should have received it by now. But that's okay. Just something small for data, etc. If you have not received it, then make sure that you contact LC, okay? All right. All right, I think that's it, guys. It's going to be it for today. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Yeah, I think this actually not a question, but I want to ask something personal here. Usually when I send messages to on WhatsApp to you, do you receive them, please?
I receive a bunch of messages, right? So if you're sending me something, potentially I may have seen it or something, but hey, look, for these exercises, I don't start saving people's name. I don't, because I receive so many messages from different people, right, for different things, and until
no, is there a sizing method for your message so that we know how to size them to prioritize them?
So I'm not saying I know. I'm telling you guys, right? Because hey, if you fail to show up on the class or something, I can remove you from this class, and I do not have to save your name up to this time, right? So until the project, we've gone to the tail end, and I know that this guy is good, etc., and I'm about to put you on project, that's when I save your name.
That makes sense. A lot of sense. That's right.
Yeah. Until that time, because I mean, you guys saw that out. Some of you, I've forgotten his name. They've been removed. About 3 or 2 people have been removed. If you fail to show up, you don't turn in your work, you're on time, etc. You're going to be removed. I do not have to save your name or do anything like that. And apart from that, people that I'm syncing up with all the time, texting me, etc. So your message is going to be lost in the sea for now.
Thanks a lot.
Your message is going to be lost, and it's okay. We'll get to it. So until when you start writing, I see your names here. I see Joshua. I see all this thing, but hey, until you start working on the project, that's when I'll begin to sync up with you personally, on that level.
Okay, then thank you very much for the stipend, for the money.
Yeah, just something small. Hopefully, something else will come again. Maybe early next year, or maybe New Year or something like that. All right, guys. So that's it for today. Again, I'll take some time. I know I've been busy. I'll take some time this afternoon to make sure that I create your profiles and your projects in there. Tomorrow morning, I'll just ask somebody to volunteer, and then you guys will start writing your stories for these features. All right. Have a great day, and we'll see you again tomorrow morning.
You too.
Thank you,
very much.